Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Castalia Cocktails. Don't just drink cocktails, experience them. With matching scents and knowledgeable bartenders to guide you, it's a great experience. Try one of Castalia's pairings or feel free to go off the menu with an adventure for your senses. The menu both tells you how boozy a drink is, and there is a full non-alcoholic lineup taking care to give you a top-notch sensory experience no matter how you'd like to drink. Whether it's in the intimate indoor bar with less than 20 seats or on the patio outside enjoying the best Detroit has to offer, Castalia is a great spot for a night out, a drink after dinner, or a date. They're open to all Wednesdays through Saturdays from 5 to 11 p.m. with the possibility for unique experiences for small groups anytime with a reservation. You can learn more at CastaliaCocktails.com. That's CastaliaCocktails.com. Make sure to support the businesses that support us and stop on by. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit for Friday, August 4th, 2023. From East of Woodward, I'm Jer Stays.
And from, well, I guess I'm a little east of Woodward myself today, Jer, but I am still in the confines of downtown Detroit. But I am east of Woodward today.
So I wondered, is within the people mover zone, like the neutral zone where you can go east? Or some people have said to me that the area between the Lodge and 75 and kind of that greater downtown area is the neutral zone. What is the east-west neutral zone for you?
Right. I think the people mover loop is a good green zone in terms of you're not really east side, you're not really west side. I mean, you're just downtown at that point. So I don't really think of myself as being on the east side. So I think the people mover loop is a nice little kind of circle of demarcation there, or whatever it is. I don't think the people mover actually forms a circle, but whatever it forms.
Yeah, some sort of weird shape. Anyway, I do want to start this show off with one kind of bummer piece of news that I feel like we need to share because we've talked about this place before. Lou Weinstein, the owner of Maddie's Deli in Dearborn, died this week. That's according to a Facebook post. The deli will be closed for a while for bereavement. I don't know all the background details. It doesn't seem like in public there's any kind of information as far as what happened and those kind of things. It is in a gas station from the mid-1920s. We've talked about this before. I know that this place is close to your heart, Devon.
Yeah, close to my heart, close to where I grew up, close to where I live now, actually, both within walking distance. It's a few blocks from both the childhood home and my current home. We loved Maddie's over the years. My family introduced me to it. Just such an amazing, authentic deli. It's just horrible to hear this. And, you know, they did mention suddenly. So it does sound like this was an unexpected passing. So that's pretty traumatic. So we hate to hear that. The only positive is it sounds like they will carry on. They're closing for bereavement briefly, but it sounds like they will carry on. And if nothing else, you get a good kind of plug-in for Maddie's, which is a fantastic deli. They have all these favorite sandwiches. They have matzo ball soup. They are really a traditional deli. The Devon go-tos, since you asked or didn't share.
Well, I was going to. Like, it was loaded and ready to go because we talked about it like a year and change ago. So we've got a lot of listeners who might not have met this episode where we talked about the greatest hits from Maddie's.
They've got something for everybody, but I'm a guy who appreciates the Carol's Temptation, which is turkey breast coleslaw, Swiss, Russian dressing on rye. That's a really good one. And then recently I've been getting Brian's Wish, which is homemade chicken salad, lettuce, Munster cheese, bacon, honey mustard on a Kaiser roll. Both fantastic. But there's something for everybody.
My condolences go out to his family, people who knew him more. I mean, I only talked to him a couple of times when I would, go in and get a sandwich or whatever. Those sandwiches are gigantic.
Yeah, they're definitely worth the money. Again, pretty affordable for the prices these days. You can get a half sandwich, but it just makes a lot more sense to just get the full sandwich, save some. And like I said, they've got everything from the sandwiches to soups to great desserts, brownies and cookies and stuff. So please, if you have a chance, it's on Monroe Street over there in West Dearborn. Check it out when they reopen.
So Devon, where have you been?
Well, staying in my hometown here. I've been waiting to talk about this place, Jer, because we talked about it when they announced it was going to open. Tiliani restaurant, a coastal Italian restaurant in West Dearborn on Michigan Avenue and Military Street right there. It's something that I've been really looking forward to because, again, I know we're starting on a theme here, but I promise we'll get away from places that Devon can walk to. But this is also walkable from my house. The chef here, he had worked under Jared Gadbaugh at Oak and Reel. He's from the city. Hisham Diab is his name. He's the chef there. He opened this space. It leans heavily on kind of seafood, high quality cuts of meat, pasta, wood-fired pizza. It really that kind of coastal Italian vibe, being that it's in Dearborn. It's all halal, which I saw some comments on Facebook. I feel like I have to kind of point this out, but I think our listeners are smart enough. Halal just means how the meat was butchered, essentially. It doesn't change the flavor of the meat at all. And I saw some comments about from people on social media kind of like questioning, how can you do halal Italian? Well, you can do halal anything. It's just a matter of how the meat's cut. So there's no difference in the taste.
I think some people react to things that they're just not used to in funny ways sometimes. I've been to a ton of halal places, and I've enjoyed a bunch of them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And one thing that does differentiate this, though, is that it is, traditional coastal Italian restaurant. They're not, so again, it's just because it's halal, it's not Middle Eastern by any stretch of the imagination. This is Italian. My wife and I went there for a little date night. Something to note, they will have a full bar soon, but right now they don't have their liquor license yet. They will let you bring a bottle of wine in, though. So if you want to bring in a bottle of wine, they'll uncork it for you, they'll pour it for you, but they don't have their liquor license yet. So make sure you know that if you plan on having some drinks with your meal. But we did a little menagerie of different stuff. We got the pizza, which was fantastic. The lamb chops were just amazing, super tender, almost like they ate like a prime filet. We got some of the appetizers with like burrata and pistachios. They do a lot with kind of the soft cheeses and nuts and honey. Really, really good. And then the sorbet is fantastic as well and made in-house. It was a great little spot. They have a patio that you can still enjoy as the weather is still nice and warm. I'm really looking forward to going back. I'd highly recommend people check out Tiliani. They don't really have an active website, but they're really active on social media. So I would find them on Instagram or Facebook. They, do all sorts of reels and posts about specials and food that they have coming up. So, this is like a high level chef coming in to do something in Dearborn, which is awesome. We don't have a ton of these kind of fine dining, high end restaurants. So really cool to see. Great addition to the neighborhood, the city, and Jer, I encourage you and all of our listeners to check them out.
Oh, I definitely will. That sounds great. I say this very tongue-in-cheek, but you mean you can drink in Dearborn? Sorry, I'm just kind of trolling the people who are like, yeah, right. Oh my God, right?
I've been doing it for decades, Jer. I've been doing it for decades.
And you will continue to.
There are plenty of places to get beverages in Dearborn. That's part of what makes Dearborn so diverse. It's some of the best Middle Eastern food that you will have in your life, but also, we got dive bars, sports bars, fine dining, cocktail bars, cigar lounges, just about everything.
So we will get into a few other food stories in a minute, but there is one story that I wanted to bring up to you, Devon, because you and I end up talking about business and labor and all those different kinds of economic things. And although the show is mostly fun today, this episode, I wanted to pull out something specific because in this back and forth between the UAW and the automakers, and this is a very like in the media kind of thing right now. But one of the things that the leader of the UAW, Shawn Fain, shared was that he would like to have a 32-hour work week for UAW workers. And I think that concept is interesting because I have heard a lot of people, especially of generations our age and a little bit younger, saying 32 hours is the way to go. And this is a push for it's like, hey, this is strenuous work, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's interesting because, the European model, some places kind of have more of a 32-hour work week. Do you think this is attainable? And do you think this is where we're headed? Let's take this out of, say, just a UAW context. But is this part of that changing work-life balance that more and more people are like, okay, hey, I really want a 32-hour work week? I know people that are friends of mine who really would love to have a 32-hour work week, and they've talked about it all the time. So what are some of your thoughts?
I don't have a strong take one way or another, but I think it is something that's worth mentioning and worth talking about. And I think that I always love talking about kind of the future of work and the future of the workplace, especially for folks that are in kind of a hybrid model or a majority remote or anything, in between there. I don't know. I would argue that like a 32-hour work week doesn't mean what it used to versus a 40-hour work week because, frankly, a lot of us have been given a lot more autonomy at our jobs. And so I think some people are just working 32-hour work weeks. You know what I mean, Jer? For those type of jobs that don't have punch clocks, where no one's technically saying this is when you started work and sat down, this is when you ended work, I think for the rest of us, it really is kind of more amorphous. And, people work hard for a while and they take some time off and maybe it all adds up to 32 hours. I know, Jared, sometimes there's probably weeks where I do 32 hours of work and there's probably weeks where I do 60 hours of work. And it just kind of changes. And I think this is kind of the new reality. So I guess in a way I do support the 32-hour work week, but I also just support the flexibility of saying, what does it really matter? I think it's more about goals based. Are you excelling at your job? Are you doing what's asked of you? Are you doing better? If you're, I think from most management director people and higher that I've talked to, they don't want to put their thumb on the employees necessarily. It's more like, well, are you getting your job done? Are you excelling? Has your work fallen off since going hybrid, or has it increased? And if your productivity has increased and you're doing better at your job, this is my personal opinion, I don't think a lot of the businesses that I talk to necessarily care if you want to call it a 32 or a 40. Now, pay-wise, you want to get paid the same. I totally understand that. I will say that in this UAW story that kind of gave you the cause to bring it up, they're also seeking double-digit pay hikes. So look, I'm not saying it's what's right or wrong. I have no business getting into UAW talks, but I will say that asking for double-digit pay hikes and then also a 8-hour or 20% decrease in the work you do, let's say that's asking a lot, Jer. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how. I'd be interested to see what most people think of that, is like being able to go to your boss or your employer, ask for more money, but also ask to work less.
So what's a little bit different on this for me is that when you're working the line, it's super managed, right? You're punching in, you're punching out. There isn't that. I mean, obviously, not all UAW jobs are on the line. Let's put that out there first. But when you're working on the line, when you're talking the context of the big three or the Detroit three, this is a heavily managed situation where you punch in, you punch out. If you're late, you get docked. Like it's a different mode of work than, say, the hybrid model. So I think that that's maybe where some of this is coming from, saying, hey, you know what? Some of the white collar workers have the flexibility that you're talking about, and we don't. I think that plays into this as well. Like what kind of work you do plays into this. I will mention that according to a recent Pew survey, support for unions is way up in the United States. Something like more than 70% of Americans support unions, which is got to be a bipartisan number at that point. Although I think more than 50% of people or 58% of people who are not in union do not think they need one. So it's interesting to see that kind of dichotomy of the two. I really wonder what people think. Is 32 hours better? What would you want to see? It's that whole work-life balance thing. I mean, I run my own thing, so work-life balance doesn't exist for me. So I'm probably not the best person to ask about all of this, but I really would like to hear what people think. 313-789-3211 or dailydetroit@gmail.com. Is the 32-hour work week something that we should go for, or should we stick with the 40? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, would love to put this to the listeners. I think that's one of those things where I could totally see your point, Jer, for a job like that where you're punching in, punching out. It's kind of very rigid in your hours. Maybe you don't have that flexibility and ability to work hybrid. So I totally understand that too. Ultimately, we'll see how this goes. I just hope for an agreement because we want things to continue. We want this industry to continue to thrive here in Southeast Michigan. So I just hope they come to an agreement and both sides are happy enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like at the end of the day, neither of us are employed by the big three, and we don't get any advertising from any automaker. So
no, Jared, gosh, it would just take up the production value. We'd be big time with that.
All right, let's get back into some food news. There's news that Fixin Soul Kitchen is coming to Paradise Valley. That is a cultural and entertainment district right there on the east side of downtown, wedged a little bit before the Detroit Athletic Club, just north of Greektown. It's a beautiful set of streets, and I have always felt like there could be so much more done. And there's going to be some more street life because Kevin Johnson, the former basketball star and also a former mayor of Sacramento, California, is opening up this Fixin Soul Kitchen restaurant. It's interesting to me. They actually have a location in Black Wall Street on Tulsa, which is pretty cool. And they had a big press reveal. They had Hill Harper there. They had Mike Duggan there, everything else for this place. And, Soul Kitchen. So says what it is on the label, right? Like greens and everything else. I'm personally looking forward to it. I think this is a good move. I think it's interesting to see so much space with this. So 8,400 square feet, and they're going to have seating for more than 300 people. That's a big spot. I think 325 or something like that. That's a big spot and a pretty big investment, and it'll be interesting to see.
This is really exciting. I mean, the other locations, as you mentioned, are Sacramento, Los Angeles, in like the LA Live area, if you've ever been over there near the Staples Center, and then in Tulsa on Black Wall Street, which, by the way, Jerry, is Detroit Avenue in Tulsa. So a little connection there. This is their biggest location yet, and it's going to have soul food options, all the sides you can handle, full bar. it comes from Kevin Johnson. He never played in Detroit. He played various places, including the Phoenix Suns, where he was an all-star. I mean, he's a really great player, Jerry. This is a Hall of Fame level player in Kevin Johnson, and he was really instrumental, actually, in keeping the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. They were ready to move to Seattle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Kevin Johnson, as the mayor of Sacramento, really, really helped structure a new arena deal that kept the Kings in Sacramento. Otherwise, they almost certainly would have moved to Seattle. So a hero in Sacramento, bringing this restaurant here. It's a great location for it, Jer. I think, again, I don't know the specifics on how this was all structured, but this is Paradise Valley, as you mentioned, and it really was a place where there was a lot of Black entrepreneurs, Black business going on, and it's kind of undergone some changes, some redevelopment, and you have this generation of Black entrepreneurs. They're not necessarily all young, but you have Rainey Hamilton, for instance, Hamilton Anderson. You have
he
Dennis
owns this
Archer.
building.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got Rainey, you've got Dennis Archer Jr. owns several buildings along this strip as well, and I know that he's developing some really cool bar and restaurant concepts that we'll surely talk about soon. And then Hiram Jackson of different media groups, and he also has some interest in some of these buildings. So you have these Black entrepreneurs who are Detroit guys who have invested and continue to invest in this area. So I do think this is something to watch, Jer. This Fixin's will probably really be the cornerstone of the development that is taking place in Paradise Valley, and projects are going to follow. I can't say when, but we will in the next few months. I guarantee we'll be talking about more bars, more restaurants that are popping up in Paradise Valley. There's businesses like offices that are moving in on the second and third floors of some of these buildings. So you're going to see some really interesting development over in the Paradise Valley area, and it's being spurred by Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, which I think is really, really cool. So really cool area. If you ever went to Detroit Seafood Kitchen, it was relatively popular. I went there several times before. This is where that's going to be, basically that building.
Yeah, earlier this year, I talked to Dennis Archer Jr. publicly about this on a PBS report, and he kind of teased to me that there were going to be a lot of things happening like this. So I think there are some big plans on the drawing board, and I'm glad to see this kind of move forward. The target date for this is December, like mid-December, no later than early next year. I hope that they hit that. I got to say, though, I have a question, and I don't know the answer to this. Are you a chicken and waffles guy or not? Because that's featured on this menu along with like the deep fried deviled eggs and oxtails and all that. But chicken and waffles, your verdict.
I am a chicken and waffles guy for brunch. To me, it's a time and a place. I probably wouldn't have chicken and waffles for dinner or lunch, but like for brunch, breakfast, I would totally do chicken and waffles. But to me, it's all about like the syrup you get on there. You get like some like hot honey syrup type of thing. That's like, absolutely. And I've had it at some really good places. Cuzzo's, for instance.
Okay. I got to say this, though. Before the whole hot honey craze, and it's gone now, but New Center Eatery over on Grand Boulevard, that was my chicken and waffles jam.
Yeah, they were really good.
Couple of things before I let you go. Sanders is bringing back their toppings, fudge and caramel. They had stopped production for a while. Last time I was in Mackinac, I literally grabbed one of the last jars to bring back of this stuff. And honestly, I have been keeping it in the cupboard, kind of afraid to open it, when you're told it's like the last thing. But I have found out they're doing it better, they say, in a press release, and that they have started up production again of caramel and fudge topping, which is a huge deal for old school Detroit fans, being that Sanders is such an iconic name.
Yeah, really, Jared. That's exciting news. And I will say, I mean, I don't know what it is. I think it's something in the texture, the viscosity of the fudge. It's just different. That Sanders fudge it's different somehow than anything you could buy, off the shelf at a store. So I'm really glad that they're coming back. And Jared, you can use that can now of fudge. So please feel free to use it because you'll be able to get more.
Oh, I am definitely using that jar. But I will say they still use real sugar, real cream, which I think is part of the difference here. It also affects the price a little bit, but I mean, if you're going to treat yourself, get the real stuff, right?
It's gourmet. This isn't your Kroger Hershey syrup. I mean, this is the real stuff. So yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more for it.
And then finally, your favorite, and I say this laughing a little bit, Vernors Black Cherry, back on shelves at Meijer, all over the place. It's a thing. It apparently did well enough that not only did they say it was going to come back, they truly brought it back. I have listeners who have been sending me pictures of palletfuls of 2 liters of Vernors Black Cherry. How do you feel about it, man?
I like Black Cherry and I like Vernors separately, but for some reason, this just does not work for me together. I just don't. The Black Cherry and the Vernors, it makes the Vernors too sweet, and I like Vernors because it's not too sweet.
Remember when we tried to make a cocktail out of this?
Oof, yeah, that was yuck. So this is bad mashup, but both things are very separately interesting. And Jerry, I want to throw something back at you, and maybe this is something for the listeners, because I am not old enough to know the history. There's some kind of connection with like the black cherry flavor in the Detroit area. Is there not? Am I missing? Like, do people know about this?
I feel like there is, but I also feel like I need to do some research or have a very eagle-eyed listener fill in the blanks. I feel the same way too, but I don't know the story behind it. I'm going to plead that I don't know.
Yeah, let's get the listeners on this, because honest to God, I have another anecdote. I was at West Dearborn shopping the other day, and I had a tub of black cherry. So see, look, Jerry, this is a proof that I actually do like the flavor. I had a tub of black cherry ice cream. I think it was Guernsey black cherry ice cream in my cart, and somebody stopped me and said, hey, do you know that black cherry is really ingrained in our history, and in Dearborn, at Camp Dearborn, they always had the black cherry flavor, and like this was like the unofficial flavor of Dearborn ice cream. And I hadn't heard of any of this. And then clearly there's a black cherry Vernors now. They must have thought black cherry is something that speaks to Detroiters. So I don't know. I'm feeling there's a local connection. I'm not sure what it is yet. So please, listeners, let us know what the deal is with black cherry and this area.
You know, something locally that I need to try, and they're friends of the show, so it's really a shame that I haven't. There is Millionaire Shortbread. It's a Scottish thing at places like West Dearborn and other stuff. And it's from Ackroyd's Bakery, and I have not tried it yet. It's like chocolate and shortbread and the whole thing. And so if you can pick up something for me the next time you're at West Dearborn, I'd really appreciate it.
Jerry, you got it. You got it. I'll grab something for you this weekend.
All right. And with that, we are done for today. Thank you so much to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Thank you so much to all of our listeners. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes and in front of a microphone. Fletcher Sharp, Norris Howard, Luciano Marcone, Cheyenne Nocerini, Randy Walker, and of course, you, Devon O'Reilly. It's so good to catch up with you.
Always great to talk to you, Jerry, wherever we may be.
Exactly. A reminder, next week again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then back to our regular schedule. 313-789-3211 for any feedback, or dailydetroit@gmail.com. I'm Jerry Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.